call this meeting to order. First, I want to note where our fire exits are. To my left, just here through that door, and then through the door through which we all came in. Can we please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Member Erdl. Here. Member Sprata.
Present.
Member Menard.
Here.
And Acting Chairman Delaney.
Present. And legal notes.
Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Depew will hold a public hearing on September 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of the Municipal Building, 85 Manitou Street, Depew, New York, to consider the application of Ari Goldberg of Barclay Damon on behalf of Royal Wash Development, LLC, for property located at 4801 Broadway for a rehearing of the tabled March 10th, 2022 meeting for two variances of Chapter 260, subset 26027A2 for relief of the required side yard setback of 25 feet abutting a residential property, requesting 5.9 feet, and of Chapter 260, subset 26037E, wall sign 4, for relief of the maximum wall sign coverage on a single parcel, 100 square feet, requesting an increase to 142 square feet. A pre-board meeting will begin at 6:30 p.m. in the conference room of the Municipal Building, 85 Manitou Street, Depew, New York, and any and all persons interested in such application will be heard at this time.
Hi, Mr. Goldberg, I presume?
Yes, good evening, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Ari Goldberg from the law firm Barclay Damon for the applicant. Cole Overhoff from Passero Associates, the project engineer, is with me tonight. We were before you back in March 10 of this year, where we discussed the two variances before you, and we went through each of the 5 factors set forth in village law that govern your decision on these variances. Those 5 factors are also discussed in our papers. A couple of options. I could leave you to your discussion. I could take any questions you have, or I could quickly go through those 5 factors again with respect to the variances, whatever is the board's pleasure this evening.
I think maybe we'll do questions first, and then we'll go through the 5.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Do we have board members with questions? Member Sprata?
None right now.
Member Menard?
None for me, thank you.
Member Erdl?
No.
Any questions, comments, concerns from code?
No, we're good.
Legal?
Nothing from me. As long as they're consistent with what you approve, this should be a smooth process.
Agreed. All right, Mr. Goldberg.
Yeah, let me give a quick history. It was discussed previously before, but so when we were here on March 10th, we opted to not have a decision rendered at that time because seeker was not completed. Seeker has since been completed. A negative declaration was adopted by the village board, and the village board also, on recommendation from the planning board, approved our site plan and issued our special use permit. So for all intents and purposes, this building is permitted. It's likely to be built subject to this board's approval of certain elements of the site plan. The first is the side yard setback. We have cautiously determined that 25 feet is the required setback. We do not meet that, and that is where our first variance come from. It's our side yard setback. We are next to another C2 zoned property, but on that C2 zone property is a lawful non-conforming residential structure, which is why we've determined that we should be the 25-foot setback, which is what we need to a residential occupied parcel. And the second variance, as was mentioned in the notice, is for our wall signage. 100 square feet is allowed. We have 3 wall signs totaling 142 square feet. With respect quickly to the village law criteria, on the first one, there's no undue detriment to the neighborhood here. Specifically on the setback, there's going to be fencing and landscaping, and there's still a significant amount of setback even within that area. The dwelling is further away from the lot line itself, and there's also a slope that it'll make our fence seem taller than it is, preventing any spillage from cars with their lights or anything like that. And then with regards to impact on the neighborhood with signage, I think that's pretty much imperceptible. This is two major commercial thoroughfares in the region and particularly in the village, and I think signage is appropriate. Second, with regard to feasible alternatives, the key here is that the alternative needs to be feasible. for us, the applicant, to pursue. On the setback, the reason the setback is what it is a product of our site. We cannot change that. We did speak to the neighboring landowner to see if we could buy his parcel. He's not interested in selling. Did engage in those discussions. And then regarding feasible alternatives with respect to the signage, we already removed one of our signs on the southern side. Right here, where the creek is, couldn't really remove another signage without sacrificing some of the likelihood of success of the business venture. Branding is key, visibility is key. Neither variance is substantial. That's the third village law criteria. Sometimes this factor can be a little confusing. So substantiality is not just percent that you deviate from the code. It's substantial based on the harm that your variance may cause. In that sense, it is similar to the first criteria, and we believe there's no harm with either variance here. Signage, no one's going to know driving by that we're 42 square feet over. And if they do, that's a very impressive skill. And then regard to the setback, again, similar response to the first criteria. We have the landscaping, we have the fence, we have the actual distance to the occupied dwelling. Fourth, the variances will not negatively impact the environment. The two variances in and of themselves are type 2 seeker actions, indicating there's no negative environmental impact. And then, as I mentioned, the project as a whole has received a seeker negative declaration. And then fifth, the last one, the hardship is not self-created. The applicant doesn't actually own the site right now. They are the option contract purchaser. To that end, they have not bought the property and then brought the hardship of the zoning code onto themselves. So when you are the contract purchaser, you have not yet created that hardship on your own. And again, even if this board disagrees with me regarding self-created hardship, this is a balancing test of all 5 of the criteria. And on balance, in our view, the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the area is very minimal, but the benefit to the applicant is extreme. So on benefit, the variances should be granted. Again, I hope that recap was helpful. Cole and I are both here to answer any questions, and of course, go Bills.
I will, at least on my part, say that was very helpful, so thank you for that.
Excellent. Anytime.
Okay, so I think that we are probably ready to put forth a motion.
I put forth a motion that we accept their application for the variance.
All right, motion to grant. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Second from Member Menard. And a roll call vote, please.
Member Sprata,
Yes.
Member Erdl,
Yes.
Member Menard,
Yes.
and Chairman Delaney.
Yes.
4 yes, variance granted.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take a cookie, you earned it.
Yeah, they
Next notice.
Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Depew will hold a public hearing on September 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of the municipal building, 85 Manitow Street, Depew, New York, to consider the application of Ricky Wargala for property located at 179 Wayside Drive of Chapter 260, subset 260-14B1E1, to allow him to place a generator within the required 5-foot setback. A pre-board meeting will begin at 6:30 p.m. in the conference room of the municipal building, 85 Manitow Street, Depew, New York, and any and all persons interested in such application will be heard at this time.
Please step forward, say your name, and tell us what you'd like to do.
Good evening. Ricky Wargala, 179 Wayside Drive. I'm planning to install a standalone power generator installed by Zenner and Ritter. And when they came out to do the site survey, they informed me that there was a 5-foot setback from an adjacent property line, which I was not aware of, right? And I said, okay. And I found out where they actually wanted to place our generator then, which would be behind my home, in an area I really wasn't too pleased with. And then I started thinking, I says, okay, the 5-foot property line setback is basically for health reasons or impounding on somebody else's property. But the way our homes are situated, and Mr. Sprata saw it firsthand, he had stopped by. I don't have any fancy designs, but and I do have some photos. My house faces Wayside Drive, front of my house. Mr. Wagner, who is my nearest neighbor, his house faces Colony Street. And where I would like to place the generator on the west side of my house is going to be about 39 inches from his 6-foot privacy fence. And then immediately behind that area is a 15 by 15 storage shed. And then we'd have to go about 85 more feet to get to my neighbor's house. Because they face in different, he faces west and I face north on around another corner. So I took some photos so I could illustrate to you simply what I'm talking about. And Mr. Sprata can also chime in if he
Wayside
cares
Drive,
to,
that's
because he saw it personally. And I told him I was going to take some photos to try and help things out here. I'll explain. The first photo is myself standing in my front yard showing the right corner of my dwelling and Mr. Wagner, Mark Wagner's fence. The actual generator is going to be placed in between the right side of my house behind the shrubbery and Mr. Wagner's fence. Again, it's a sort of a straight-on shot that you can see where it's going to go. And then I have a third photo showing his fence, his storage shed, and then his home, which seems, according to this photo, rather distant from where we actually will be standing. And so, if you would care to take...
You can show Mr. Delaney.
Oh, Mr. Delaney, okay.
Okay.
And go, and then scroll.
All right, that's what you mean. Oh, yeah, okay. What's the board want to see? Member Ertl, do you have any questions at this time? Member Sprata?
No, I have no questions. He pointed out that the utilities are on the opposite side of the house, so utilities would have nothing
Right, there's no
to,
impact.
no interference.
And see that side there, my gas meter is actually inside my house in the basement. You know, one of the few that still exists that way. And cost effectiveness too. Zetter and Ritter, when the gentleman came out to do the estimate, he says, boy, he says, if you can get a variance here, spend your $100 for the variance, move to Depew, because this will certainly cut the cost of our installation by having to go another 40 feet or so with gas lines and pipelines and all that to connect into the gas meter.
Right.
It's still okay.
Member Menard, any questions?
None from me, thank you.
Any questions from code, comments, concerns?
So the only thing, like as we discussed on the phone, you're going to face the exhaust away from the vinyl fence.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and then you're moving your wooden stockade fence up to between the front property line and that. So
Yeah.
it'll still be blocked view-wise from.
Correct. Yeah, you couldn't see it from the street, no.
Okay.
Because right where I'm going to position it, actually I have two basement windows that actually have glass block. But I still going to go, 60 inches from those as well.
Yeah. So all you have to meet is 36 inches.
Of where my fence is, and I'm going to have to move my fence like 3 feet.
Yeah.
And it's only one section of fence. Yeah, Mr. Sprata, so.
Do you have any questions, comments, concerns from legal?
No, nothing from me. It seems rather straightforward. Was there a young guy named Matthew over there from Zeta Ritter? Was there a young guy named Matthew over there from Zeta Ritter?
No.
That's my brother. He works there.
Oh, okay. All right. This was just the, the guy that comes out to do the assessment and the estimate of what it's going to cost. Yeah. We have a number of generators in our neighborhood.
Yeah, no,
Every other house that has one.
With that said, I'm going to read the criteria for an area variance in New York State. There are 6 of them. Number 1, will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties be created by granting of the area variance? You wrote no, and I would agree. Number 2, can the benefit sought by you, the applicant, be achieved by some other method other than an area variance? You wrote no, and I agree. Number 3, is the requested area variance substantial? You wrote no, I'm asking for approximately 16 inches difference, and I would once again agree. 4th, will the proposed area variance have an adverse effect or impact the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? You wrote no, and that's true. 5, is the alleged difficulty self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the zoning board of appeals, but not necessarily preclude the granting of the requested area variance? You wrote no. I would say yes, because you don't have to get a generator. And lastly, number 6, what is the minimum area variance deemed necessary and adequate? You wrote 24 inches maximum. Realistically, 10 to 18 inches from neighbor's fence is needed. The unit would be 51 inches from neighbor fence after installed. I understand 60 inch is code, therefore a variance of 9 inches minimum. Does that sound right to you, John?
It's actually from the property line, and it requires 30 inches, but it's still going to have negative impacts, and nothing changes.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what the minimum variance required was. Okay. All right. With that, do we have a motion to grant or deny the variance as presented?
Make a motion to approve the variance as presented.
Okay. Member Menard makes a motion to grant. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded from Member Sprata. Roll call vote, please.
Member Sprata,
Yes.
Member Ertl,
Yes.
Member Menard,
Yes.
Chairman Delaney.
Yes.
4 yes, variance approved.
Do we have a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the hearing
Second.
at this time.
Second.
Seconded from Member Earl. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing is closed.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
And as millions are saying, go Bills.
Feel free to grab a cookie. I will. They have nuts in them if you're allergic.
Okay, no, I'm fine. Thank you.
Having so many small kids, it's like the peanut allergy. You know, you got mine don't have it, but you know, one kid in the class does. You got to look at all the
My
ingredients.
older son's, yeah, my son's best friend has a.
You got to be careful.
He's been doing testing. He's been doing. He gets a little bit